Welcome to the Blue Cafe. We offer stories of infidelity, betrayal, and redemption. Please like and subscribe. Cheers. Now, on to today's story. My life has imploded. Husband 29M slept with my mom 55F right before we got married 2 years ago. He confessed it to me yesterday out of guilt. The details are that he was extremely drunk on his bachelor party night, which I knew had happened. He doesn't drink often and overdid it. Said the next morning that he didn't remember anything after a certain point. I thought nothing of it. Looking back, I can see how he was acting pretty off, which I assumed at the time was wedding jitters. Now he's told me he did remember coming home that night, which was when my mom, staying with us that week for the wedding, came onto him. He went along with it to the point of ending up having sex in her bed. In fact, he passed out in her bed and was there the whole night. My bachelorette party was the same night. I came home around 3 a.m. to see he wasn't in our bed. I texted him but assumed he had crashed with a friend, as he'd said he might do that if things got crazy. But he was actually with my mother, right in the room next ducking door. The next morning, he quietly slipped out while I was still asleep. Then opened the door pretending he'd just come home after sleeping off the drunkenness at his friend's. He got into bed with me and told me that lie. As if that wasn't enough, he also initiated sex soon after. He'd been ducking my mother mere hours before. We got married the very next day. Duck everything. I literally cannot believe this. My mother has a history of trying to flirt with guys I've dated and being inappropriate, not this bad but still. My husband knew this. We laughed about it. He assured me he would never in a million years think she was attractive. What the duck? I called her last night, just said husband told me everything. She spent several minutes pretending not to know what I was talking about. Then denying everything and saying he was making it up. Then claiming she'd woken up to my husband forcing himself on her. The sheer audacity of the bullshit she is capable of is beyond any disgust I can properly convey. I eventually just ended the call. I could not stop crying. She refused to even admit the truth, let alone take any responsibility or apologize. I'm not even worth basic honesty in my own mother's eyes. I'm not even worth a half-assed "I'm sorry" to her. The person who's supposed to love you no matter what. And does she also think I'm stupid? Why keep lying to someone who knows you're lying unless you actually think they'd fall for your shit? Today I can't cry at all. Everything feels unreal. I'm completely lost and almost feel like I dreamed this or something. I've lost the two most important people in my life. Because they decided that I wasn't as important to them as having a quick duck. Well, hope it was the best 10 minutes of their lives. And sure, maybe my husband didn't come home that night with the planned intention of sleeping with her. He probably didn't, and it was just horrible judgment from overdrinking. That doesn't change the fact he and my mom have had sex. No one should be able to say that about their spouse. How is that normal? I cannot imagine remaining in a marriage where my spouse has ducked my mom. Literally 2 nights before our wedding. There's simply no coming back from that, right? No, I will never get over or forgive it. I feel absolutely revolted that for the last 2 years they've been at family visits together acting more or less normal, with me right there like a stupid ducking clueless fool. There's probably much more I'm forgetting, but maybe it doesn't even matter. I'm just done. My life is gone and I have no idea where I will be next week, let alone next year. We were going to be together for the rest of our lives. Now it's gone. Just like that, I have nothing. What can I do now? How do I possibly explain to the rest of my family why we're divorcing? I am so ducking humiliated. TLDR, learned my husband cheated on me with my own mother 2 days before we got married. Our entire marriage has been sitting on that lie. Update, my life has imploded. Husband 29M slept with my mom 55F right before we got married 2 years ago. My actual update will be brief, but I first want to thoroughly address what you guys said on my first post. I read every single comment. I guess skip to the bottom if you just want to know the update. Most of you were pointing out that it sounded like my husband was too drunk to consent, meaning she raped him. When I spoke to him again, after reading all of that, I asked him carefully if he felt that she took advantage of his drunkenness. There was a long pause, he sighed and gave me this look that was just full of guilt and sadness, and then basically said, no, that it would be easy to go with the out I was giving him, but that I deserved the full truth. He then proceeded to tell me that before that night, they had been sexting for several months. He had not told me this the first time he confessed. He went on to tell me more, explaining that he left this out because the biggest issue was the actual cheating and he hadn't wanted to hurt me by giving all the led-up details. He only gave them this time out of some remaining sense of honor, I guess. He said he'd be even more of a coward if he misled me to think it was rape. So I guess he's not as much of a liar as he could be. Don't know how to feel about that. Anyway, they had been sexting, including exchanging nudes, for a few months before the wedding. Now, I had known they texted sometimes, they always had a friendly relationship. I hadn't ever suspected anything weird. Like I said in the first post, he'd been adamant that he'd never think of her sexually. I trusted him. He can't explain why they started sexting beyond he got caught up in the thrill of doing something forbidden. There were implications made about wanting to do things in real life as a one-night thing should the opportunity ever arise. Disgusting. So fast forward to our bachelor/yetter parties night. The texting between him and her was going on while he was out that night. So what I said in my first post about how he probably didn't come home intending to sleep with her. Yep, that was wrong, he did. In fact, him telling me he was going to stay overnight with his friend if he got too drunk was all part of the setup. He knew I'd be out very late at a show. He had the presence of mind to arrange a way to leave his party earlier in the night, go home, duck my mother, and already have given me a plausible explanation for appearing not to be home when I got back at 3 a.m. so that he could spend that one night with her. It was just that important to him to have the full experience of falling asleep after sex and waking up next to each other. He reiterated that he had been aware the whole time of what he was doing. He was not as drunk as he'd made it seem the next morning when he claimed not to remember anything that happened. I think that tripped people up on my first post into thinking he was incapacitated. I thought I'd been clear that he'd admitted during his first confession that it was an act he put onto me at the time to cover up his cheating, which he then explained he actually had remembered everything the next morning. So just to be clear again, while he did get drunk, at no point did he black out or become totally wasted to the point he was incapable of controlling his decisions and body. He doesn't know if she was drunk too or relatively sober. She had mentioned she was drinking when he was out at his party, but he doesn't know how much. He said since that night he hadn't texted her at all except about logistical details of visits, and one text he sent her the day after. In that one he said it would never happen again and she'd lose me if I knew, correct, so she better never let it slip. She agreed. He claims everything between them since then has been a normal mill relationship. Do I believe that? Doesn't matter. He lied for 2 years and then lied by omission in his first confession about the months-long build-up to the affair. During that time I was bonding with my mother over wedding planning. She brought me dress shopping. It's fucking sick. I'd be misplaced to not acknowledge his integrity around the rape thing. He told me it'd be easy to run with that in order to keep me. I'd said if that's how it happened I would stay with him, but that he'd already betrayed me. He wouldn't be able to live with himself if he made a false accusation about something so serious instead of taking responsibility. Well, that is the only part I respect him for. As for my mom, nothing, not a word from her since this weekend. Fine by me. I never want to see or hear from her again. It's almost like she died. I don't have a mother anymore. Some of you asked about my father. He died of health issues in 2010, and my mom had a revolving door of men when I was a teen but no real relationships, so I don't have a dad or a stepdad either. I'm also an only child. I have friends and some other family, but just do not have the energy yet to tell them about any of this. Last thing, some people thought my post was made up because I hadn't replied to any comments. That was because I was so exhausted I just passed out right after posting it. When I woke up, it was locked and I couldn't reply. Actual update. I'm proceeding with divorce and have gotten in touch with an attorney. I've kicked him out of the house. I think he's gone to his parents for the time being. Not looking forward to a legal battle whatsoever, but there's no possible way to remain married after this shit. To this day, he doesn't know why he did it. I have my own suspicions based on things he's said in the past about wishing he'd had more sexual partners before me, because he felt like he had missed out on his youth. Maybe that was my clue I wasn't enough for him. Should have listened, but let him and some friends talk me into believing I must be or he wouldn't be with me, and that all guys have regrets like that and sacrifice them for the right woman. Clearly that wasn't me. He also struggles with overuse of porn sometimes. Stepmom is his favorite genre. It never struck me as anything other than a dumb porn thing. Whatever. I won't be dating for a long time because obviously I'm colorblind to red flags. TLDR, he gave additional details that clarified he was not raped. It was an intentional affair, going back months longer than the one-night encounter he initially told me about. We will be divorcing. The only saving grace is that we don't have kids. Whoa. That's completely ducked up. So sorry you have to deal with all this. It is ducked up. To this day, he doesn't know why he did it. That's a lie. He planned it out in detail. He knows why he did it even if he won't admit it. Also, I seriously doubt he admitted to this out of guilt. He just wants out of the marriage and this was the easiest way to get that. I wouldn't be surprised if he is ducking around behind her back with someone. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if he is lying about cutting off the mom. I've had friends that did crazy shit for their bachelor party, normal crazy shit, like strippers, hookers and blow, and if some of it came out it might end their marriage. Decades later and no one has ever said a word. It happened, it's not happening ever again, code of silence. I don't blame anyone for thinking that sort of thing is stupid and shitty, but at the same time, to me, it's worse to go years into a marriage with someone and then admit to something like that to assuage your own guilt. Own that guilt and live with the shame. Be a better person if you really want to do right by your partner. This guilt thing is just an excuse to bail. I'd be misplaced to not acknowledge his integrity around the rape thing. He told me it'd be easy to run with that in order to keep me. I'd said if that's how it happened I would stay with him, but that he'd already betrayed me. He wouldn't be able to live with himself if he made a false accusation about something so serious instead of taking responsibility. Well, that is the only part I respect him for. Also, don't fall for this sop. He wants out, that's the reason why he isn't playing this angle. If you had caught him and he wanted to stay, he would throw mom under the bus no problem. This is just a way for him to keep some sort of control over you, make you think he isn't as bad as he seems. He is that bad. Take him to the cleaners in the divorce, no holds barred. Oh God, please don't try to normalize being able to do shit like that, knowing it'll ruin the relationship if it came out, then keeping it a secret. If they don't want their partners knowing it, then they shouldn't be doing it. Yeah, what the hell? I wouldn't want to be with someone who cheated on me. I'm proceeding with divorce and have gotten in touch with an attorney. I've kicked him out of the house. Good, yes, affirm, absolutely yes. Cut these people out of your life like the cancerous tumors they are and go no contact forever. My God. Invest in you. Please get therapy for the trauma that has been inflicted on you by this terrible betrayal. He is a pos and your mom is no mother, she's a trashy female bio parent, nothing more. Unbelievable to do this to your own daughter. Strength and healing to you op. pp 45. Thank you. Finding someone for therapy is on my to-do list before the end of the week. Excellent. A good therapist with expertise in trauma recovery can really help. Is this actually trauma? You said your life has imploded. Is that not traumatic? In one horrible moment, you lost your husband and your mother, essentially. I would say that counts as trauma. In order for something to be traumatic, it doesn't have to involve death or violence. You have gone through an upheaval that few can imagine. Don't minimize what happened to you just because it might not be as bad as some other people have it. I think that's a common response to something like this. Acknowledge it. Face it head on. And then you will be able to find a path forward. You can do it. Yes. My husband ghosted me for no reason 2 years ago. He later came out, and my doctor diagnosed me with PTSD and gave me sedatives. Whenever my new boyfriend goes away for longer than one night, I am automatically convinced he won't return. That's my problem though. Do not hit the bottle and find something that can take you out of the moment and calm you. I used escape room puzzle phone games. The best thing is there's so many. We're all rooting for you, make sure you're rooting for you too, 2 hearts. Drinking isn't my thing, so that won't be a problem. I've barely gotten out of bed. I took a week of personal leave off work, so that is okay for now, but I don't know if I'll be able to function enough to go in on Monday. I was 10 pounds underweight from anorexia before this, and have only had water and tea since, because I want to never eat again. Posting here and replying to people is keeping me occupied, and I've been sleeping a great deal. I'm going to have to get out of bed at some point, and I don't know how. I can't imagine there will be a long, drawn-out legal battle. He admitted to an affair with your mother. If he doesn't want everyone to know those details, he will sign anything you ask him to. I mean about our joint house ownership and other assets. I get that. And you have really good leverage for the negotiations. He fully admitted to his actions and went into the marriage under false pretenses. I wouldn't say you can take everything, but if you go for half, then you will probably get half of the assets and he won't have a leg to stand on. Glad you updated. The right decisions are never easy. Heart, sounds like you've got a good head on your shoulders. There will be doubts and moments of weakness down the line, but stay strong. You already inspire me with your sense of inner strength. Never doubt your value and your worth. Our time here is too short and too valuable to waste. Wishing you all the best things as you find your path ahead. Thank you so much. That's so ducked up. I hate how many people were actually getting angry at people for saying that it didn't seem to be rape. I understood the want to check that off the list, but it did seem as though you made it pretty clear the first time that he was in control of the situation, and if he wanted to leave, he would have. I'm so happy that you guys don't have kids. That probably would have made the entire situation 3x harder. I can't imagine how destroyed you must feel right now. And don't blame yourself for being colorblind to red flags. That's not on you. You loved him enough to see past certain things. No one expects something like this. No one should have to, honestly. They weren't clear red flags like you catching him doing something more obvious with your mom. They were very subtle, and honestly, no one would have caught it if he hadn't told you about it, or if you didn't catch him on his bullshit one day. I don't know if I'd be able to trust anyone ever again after learning that my own mother would do something like that and actually allow me to go through with marrying someone like that. It's just crazy. Thank you for all of this. Yeah, I have no idea how I would ever trust again. Well, I guess my mom at least won't be in the picture. Really don't want to even think about dating. Don't, honestly. Not for a while. Probably consider therapy and focusing on you and only you. Something like this, you deserve to be selfish. Once the divorce is finalized, I don't know exactly how a divorce works or how long it takes. Just focus on you. You don't have to be available for anyone. Remember to never blame yourself and never make it out to you not being enough. You are more than enough. He just was too stupid to see that. Not having more partners or whatever the case may be is never an excuse to cheat. Never. There's no excuse for cheating, honestly. This is entirely on him, not you, for not seeing these subtle red flags. He allowed you guys to get married and then decided to tell you this afterwards and wasted so much of your combined time and energy and money. That's honestly ridiculous. It's time to cut your mom out of your life as well. How sick is she? Sheesh. FYI, this isn't about you and not being enough. They are just sick people. She has no place in my life ever again. We hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Please comment, like and subscribe. Cheers. Have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are.